Hey folks, welcome back to DragonCon Goes Virtual. My name is Rob. They call me Rob in the Hat, but I'm Sans Hat for you guys to show you how serious I take my job. Now, we're going to have a panel discussing Red Dwarf, The Promised Land, that came out just this past year. And I have a couple of hoopy froods with me today. I have Christian Basel underneath me, the showrunner and host of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS show. Say hi there, Christian.
I'm only underneath you because it's by location, nothing anything else out there.
Yeah.
Just in case you're listening to this.
And over here on the side, we have Dave Chapman from the tabletop review website, therathole.ca, and panelists on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. He's a regular panelist instead of one of those special panelists. So, yes. Hey, Dave.
But he's still special.
All right, welcome to your first DragonCon experience.
Yes, I'm excited.
All right. So like I said earlier, we're going to talk about Red Dwarf, The Promised Land, the special movie that came out earlier this year, and you can watch now on BritBox exclusively, though you can rent or buy it on Amazon Prime, but don't tell anyone. Shh, that's our secret. Okay, so first I'm going to want to get some just overending perspectives about the show. Kristen, let's start with you. What did you think about it?
About the episode itself, or just Red Dwarf in general?
About the episode.
About the episode. Well, normally what we do is when we review a show on a Doctor Who episode, we usually go from 1 to 10 TARDISes. And if I were to rate this particular episode in the way that we do it on our show, a 9.
Ooh,
a very high 9. Yeah, you have to do a lot to be a 10. There were some things I think they could have expanded on. Overall, in the series, because sometimes there's like back in the red and stuff like that. The series has kind of gone into weird directions. Kind of sometimes loses focus. Holly's on, then he's not on. Kachansky's on, then she's not on. So it kind of Rimmer is Ace Rimmer, and now he's back, or he's human, now he's hologram again. So it's kind of a weird concept what Red Dwarf does when it tries to continue on. Having said all that, The Promised Land, first of all, I would say if The Promised Land were a movie, I would have seen it in the theaters. I would have paid money to have seen this into the theaters, because it not only the way that they were moving tech-wise, because now we're getting away from the wibbly, timey-wimey, wobbly sets. We're getting into more. It looks like they actually budgeted this for like a big budget movie. It finally had the tech that it needed to explain the story, and it seemed like to be the perfect evolution from where we began, and they were hitting upon everything amongst the series, talking about Crichton getting on board and how everybody evolved to this point. So here we are right now, and Holly's back. Holy cow, Holly's back!
Yes,
they brought him back, and I was like, yes, thank you for bringing Holly back. I would, and it's almost like they didn't even miss a beat when Holly came back, and I won't spoil it for you, but to have Holly back and be part of the team again, and the way he interacts with the dwarfers is just amazing.
Well, we are going to say there's a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm going to blast the spoiler warning horn.
Okay.
And everyone else is watching, be a little aware that we're going to be talking about the actual episode and things that happen. So, Dave, give us your impressions.
I'm going to say also 9 Starbucks.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be a Starbuck.
Now, how many Tim Hortons is that?
11.
11. Wow. So 9 Starbucks, 11 Tim Hortons. You know what? That exchange rate, that works.
Yeah, right?
So why does it get 11 Tim Hortons?
So I've missed all of the new Red Dwarf. Full disclosure, from 10 on, I have not had the opportunity to watch it except for this episode. So I've missed stuff and didn't feel like I've missed anything. It picks up, like Christian said, it just picks up, explains everything. There's some great throwbacks to the old, like right to the very beginning. There's an explosion in there that probably had the same budget of the entire first season.
Would you be talking about the moon or the spaceship?
Pick one. Yeah, no, it's this is Red Dwarf how Red Dwarf should always have been done, had it not started in '88.
Yes. Although, it's because of the Doctor Who hiatus that we were able to get Red Dwarf in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one good thing that came out of that. So, all right. So let's get into a little bit of specifics. Christian, could you give us kind of a summarized plot of what happens, like in the first part of the movie?
Oh, we had a test on this. I was supposed to know that. Well, the first part of the movie.
Why, we only watched it a couple hours ago. To be honest,
I know, but it's. Well, first of all, I guess I'm probably going to have to pull back into the general. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that Grant and Naylor, when they were writing the series, I embraced. And this is something that I've said, this is the best of sci-fi. There was no pushing in an agenda. It was a good story, and it gave you the perspective of everything. It didn't bog down into anything that was like, okay, this is annoying. What is this, global warming, or is this, whatever the topic, and just pound it into your head. This was something that basically took a story, looked at all the perspectives, and said, hey, I will let you make the decision. I'm just telling you a good story from all the perspectives. You decide. I think that is a testament to the best of sci-fi. That is the stuff that I appreciate when sci-fi is firing on all cylinders. And in this particular movie, it was great. I mean, it started off with the typical type of intro with the laser beam and the cats, and then giving away. I'm like, my God, well, how would you get away from the cats? There you go. That's one way of doing it.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
That was.
And it picked up from the first series. I forgot what the episode was called, but when the cat society evolved, that is a good question. What happened to that society? I mean, all we knew was Cat and the leader. What took place thereafter? And apparently there was kind of like this spin-off thing that was taking place, and then finally caught up to the Dwarfers, the Red Dwarf boys. So it was a nice way of taking all the series, kind of implementing it when, mentions of Crichton, and it kind of, I know that there is some sci-fi that kind of like critiques religion, but I think Grant and Naylor have always skirted the issue, not in the sense of an unpleasant way where they're telling a story that kind of bashes religion. They're opening it up for fun. One of my favorite opening scenes of Red Dwarf is the story in the news that the page is missing from the Bible. And I consider myself a guy of a guy of faith, and I was laughing hysterically at that joke. It was funny. It was funny. Here's a missing page. All the stories, all the characters could be fictitious and wrong.
Oh,
and I just like,
the first bit was "My Darling Sheila."
Yeah, my darling Sheila. Yeah, those fun little things, and it got expanded into a whole episode where they were this episode was really deep. And I think when it comes to great sci-fi, at the very end, you are so embraced in the story that the moral continues on after you've watched it. And that is something that I've always, the way that people have asked me, what is Red Dwarf, and trying to explain it to them, telling them the story about the guy who's been stuck in a ship, how do you explain this? It's just like, it's this guy who's stuck in stasis for millions of years. His cat, who was pregnant, evolved into society, and people are going, what the heck are you talking about? But then I simply say, if I had to explain it, I would say that Douglas Adams wrote a TV series. Here you go. Because I think the best elements of what made Douglas Adams work, Grant and Naylor have taken it, evolved it, and made it into Red Dwarf from characterizations and stuff. And they don't it's not a bash on anything. It is just taking in a fun approach at looking at things and just saying, I'm going to make you think after this episode. And it did make me think after a while. I meant, we'll get into the details, but from the beginning, I was just, they picked it up as if nothing had been left off. They really ran the ball. And Dave, I hadn't seen all of Series 10 and a couple of the episodes thereafter. But and I would love to see them. They're just hard to get. But yeah, I made a purchase to get this episode, and then I got to confess, it's the best $3 I've ever spent in my entire life. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I picked up BritBox, so I can easily go back and grab now all of them and watch everything. So
exactly.
I know what I'm doing for the next week. Like it'll last that long.
Well, yeah. So, in this episode, the cats return, and there's actually they come across the boys on a ship after they get kicked off of the Red Dwarf because they found Holly's backup discs.
Yeah, it's this big floppy old 80s disc.
I didn't get that. Why is there a giant save icon?
Oh my God, that's it. Dave's getting deleted. Here we go. Nope.
Oh,
There you go. They kind of have a little fun with it because remember when they rebooted Rimmer, the nanobots reboot Rimmer, he's back to human again. And he's a different Rimmer, so he doesn't remember anything that they've done beforehand. This is the human version of Rimmer.
Yeah.
So now here's the rebooted, factory settings Holly, and the first thing he does is he wants to kill everybody because that's his protocol. And I said, wasn't that the original protocol at some point?
I don't know about that, but I know that he was going to give him 7 days when they tried to pull that coup.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just sitting, and Norman Lovett, dear God, he's just sitting there going, making all those faces like, I can hear you.
I love how that was kind of a callback to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
When they realized that he was smart enough to read lips, but they weren't smart enough to realize that he just turned the intercom on.
Exactly. I love it.
So, Dave, tell us what happens after the cats come back.
All heck breaks loose.
All heck breaks loose. That's it for the panel, folks.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. No, they've got the 3 new disciples of Dave, and they look like old school Dave Lister. You know, you get the cloister that it was. I don't think did they ever call Fiji Fischel?
Yeah, and it was in the second episode.
No, I know that. I mean, I couldn't remember the new.
Yes, right at the end of the series, right at the end of the movie, they talked about Fischel.
Yeah. So I kind of missed it at the beginning there. I'm like, wait a minute, are they missing stuff in here? Doesn't matter. It's great. Because again, it is like all the wibbly wobbly-ness of Red Dwarf. Like you just run with it. But yeah, you've got the 3 new disciples of Dave that have been running away from the feral cats, because of course that's what they're going to be. Yeah, and they get Dave and they worship Dave in a very different way than what we saw in the first episode. Partly because that guy was old and blind, but
yeah,
you know, so it was really neat to kind of see how that religion kind of went from religion down to kind of cult, and where is it going to go from here? And it just keeps going. It was really kind of fascinating and fun. So
yeah, yeah, I know. She gives it 9 out of 10 face eatings. Yeah, because she's always threatening to eat my face.
Okay.
So she gives it 9 out of 10 face eatings. She didn't watch it, but she gives everything 9 out of 10 face eatings.
But she probably understood the whole episode.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
Meow meow.
I downloaded it in Smell-O-Vision just for her.
Oh my God. Anyway,
let's pull this panel right back on the road.
That's true. There.
Not quite 15 minutes in. How long is this thing? Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. We're already talking about biting faces off.
Oh, you're lucky. It took me that long to get to biting faces off. Okay.
Nice.
So the feral cats, they have a new leader who's throne room is entered by a cat flap, though, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah,
That was hysterical. I just like, how would you write that in there where people were going in and out? No, that was a lovely joke.
Oh God! And he turns out to be Cat's brother.
Yeah,
Cat's older brother.
Rodin, I think it was, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Rodin, yeah, he was Rodin, the leader of the feral cats, and it was just like, yeah, and then we find out it's Cat's brother, and there seems to have been some kind of antagonism going on between them, but we started. Well, we're jumping right to the end, but we'll probably discuss that revelation later on over there. But yeah, I've always that Cat. I've always found it interesting that Cat really has not had like a predominant role. It's always been the focus on Lister and Rimmer. And Cat has always been kind of like the comic relief, and because his character is kind of shallow and just likes himself and all of that. But when he becomes now the focus later on in the series or in the episode, that I thought was cool. I was like, oh God, finally Cat's getting something out of this, as opposed to he's just along for the ride.
That definitely, yeah, I love that because he's the most underutilized character in there.
Yes,
just by his nature, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's not doing a video of tongue tied. I'm appreciating what's going on out there.
Yeah,
I've watched that so many times when
I know, and then I probably put a lot. I put that song back in people's heads, so that's not coming out anytime soon.
Or when it was Dwayne Dibley.
Oh, oh God, I forgot about Dwayne Dibley. Yes, yes, they're alternates. Ace Rimmer, they're alternate sides of things. Dwayne Dibley.
Yeah. Bowl cut.
He's got teeth that can open up bottles. I love that.
And an anorak.
Yes.
All right, but that didn't happen. That wasn't in this episode. But they did refer to him.
Should have been.
As, they didn't explain why they left him behind. Which in the first season they said it was because they left all the old people and the fools.
Right.
But they gave a new reason for this one, and it was because the cat wasn't cool.
Well, I thought that was interesting, and that it kind of evolved Cat's personality that we haven't seen in the first series where we really don't get an impression of Danny John Jules evolving with Cat. But he's there, and now we kind of get the backstory finally on Cat and why he's that way. And then when he tells his brother, he's I'm staying here, when he's going like, well, you can join my ship, and he goes, I am home, and I was like, I was expecting that.
Yeah,
that was a brilliant moment. And when he is telling his brother, listen, when you left me, I decided I'm going to always be cool. I was just like, all right, that's where it all came from. I don't know if it's great revelation to have in post in all the way up until now, or if it's something that should have been evolved, but it's nice to see that it came to its fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. Him being cool.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting definition of that word, I think, even at the time.
Right.
Well, I thought it was cool that he stuck by with his friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true.
He may put him in mortal danger every time he turns in a parachute into a suit and a pair of gloves, but which did happen in this episode. But yeah,
but he's still there.
But he's in there. Yes. All right. So, what did y'all think about the whole cat society? I thought that they did a brilliant job, kind of. Again, making humans cats.
Well, I'm glad that this became the running story. I thought one of the things I thought was funny, and that kind of goes into this a little bit there, is the opening scene where Crichton says that he has an idea and to repopulate the species because that was one of the things that Lister was kind of falling out of because he's the last human in the known universe. And Crichton comes in and tells Cat and Danny John Jules' face as Crichton is explaining the situation to him when he says, well, we can have a sex change. And then he does the perfect thing. He goes, now let me finish. Because I know you're going to say something. And then he keeps explaining to Cat, and Cat is just, just Danny has this priceless face as Cat looking at him, and then he turns to Rimmer and says the same thing, and then he says to Rimmer, goes, I'm sorry, to Lister, and goes, now, wait a second, no, let me finish. It's just like that whole story. I had to stop because I could not watch any further, only because I was laughing my ass off the whole time there. The reason why I was bringing that up is the Cat Society evolved from Cat, from Lister's cat being pregnant and then expanding out over there, and it's nice to see that story get even more fleshed out, because it kind of got lost in the first season, and that was the end of it.
Yeah,
we kind of seen hints, but nothing really expanded upon that. Now we got to see the whole thing, and yeah, if you notice, like the cigarettes in their ears and stuff like that, they were coming up with the little quirks that somehow it's quite an interesting thing to see how a religion would come out from the most scummiest man in the universe. You know, the biggest bum, self-confessed, he's a bum out there, that he has started this religion. And it kind of makes you wonder how other societies and religion could have come out of a mistake. I mean, we say, what was that series on? Is it the History Channel? Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because, like, the same thing that we mentioned about the Bible page. It's like, we read this whole Bible. What if there's one page that was missing that said, you know, we kind of messed up anything? And it's a fun approach to it. I wasn't offended by it. I don't think anybody was. It's just a fun and nice approach to, hey, I'm opening your mind to this. Again, perfect science fiction. I'm bringing your mind to this so that when the moral hits, you make the decision at the end of it, or you can still be the same person.
Yeah, exactly. They always do everything just perfectly like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really just, it's there. Yeah, like Christian said, it's just they go, they tell a great story, you get the laughs, and then you're like, wait a minute, that was actually important.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. Their gags aren't just gags for laughs. They're actually integral parts of the story, just kind of blown out of proportion, but in a way that actually still makes sense. You know, like the giant floppy disk, for example.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
1988. Of course that's what it's going to be.
Yes.
Right?
To move on a little bit, another big thing that happened was they found this ship, which I mentioned earlier, but that it gave Rimmer the opportunity to be upgraded. And Dave, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Diamond light. Not just hard light, diamond light. Hard light and soft light working together to give the new Rimmer superpowers, basically.
Oh my God.
It's brilliant. It is, of course, what the next evolution of Rimmer would have to be. You know, he can pick, for those who haven't seen it, he can literally pick up an object, even as a hologram, and then take that object through the wall. So solid object is now light, which is just kind of a neat, I don't think I've ever seen that switch in that sort of a way in any series, in comics, in anything. I don't recall having seen that method, which was kind of neat. And of course, Rimmer being Rimmer, his ego gets upgraded as well.
Yes.
Of course.
Well, his ego is already upgraded. He even bypasses, the safeties or whatever they were called, the European safety protocols or whatever. Just like, don't do it.
Yeah, he's always been arrogant. I mean, but I would say he's more arrogant, is a different arrogant. He's more arrogant than I think like the Ace Rimmer version of Rimmer.
Yeah.
He's not as pompous, but he's definitely more arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
That subtle difference makes sense.
Yeah. The upgrade though came with a serious consequence though, in that it burned out his battery.
Yeah.
And he had to be plugged into a socket for most of the episode.
You run around, extension cord. And I love how he's getting chased by the cats. How do they stop him? They stomp on the extension cord.
I expect to see that as a cosplay sometime next year at Dragon Con.
I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. And I would go to the Home Depot. I'm sorry, the office, the Home Depot, and buy all those extension cords, and just walk an entire convention. I will go to Dragon Con and walk and make that line, just going around the con floor,
Oh my
going from
God.
different hotels, and I would connect them all together. That would be the ultimate. Somebody's got to do this. Somebody.
I have a feeling security might be having a word with you there.
Yeah.
That's not.
I think
I'll tape it all down.
Lay
I'll
it
tape
across
it all
stage. I could definitely see, running across stage in like a costume contest or something, parade,
Exactly.
part of the way through the parade. You'll never get all of it, but if you can get some of it, yes.
Just a big pile of stormtroopers just, tripping over the cable.
Exactly.
Oh,
Terry.
Excuse me. Pardon me. Excuse me. Right in front of the Marvel. How they do those Marvel shoots, or those all those cosplayers that get together on the stairs and all that. Could you imagine Rimmer just going across? Excuse me, I got to get to the bathroom. Just going right in front of the photo. If anybody's listening to this,
yeah, it's got to be a sci-fi one though, just because then it actually can. Well, no, because
doesn't matter now.
One that doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's more fun without it making sense because it's Rimmer.
But it's talking about being great sci-fi, but the process of him being plugged in like that did bring up a great kind of B plot for Rimmer when he had his exchange with a cat, and it came to him that, is he really real? Does he really exist?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good. Dave, what were your opinions on that dichotomy that he had?
I straight up, like, my TV, film that, send that to someone. Because that was a great scene. I think, therefore I am. But do you think, or does a computer think? What is a hologram? How much of this is Rimmer? He has no soul. He's a computer program. Or is he? Is he sentient? Is he just an algorithm? And I did love that he went into low power mode. And black and white.
Yeah.
And really in a muffled mono voice. Like that you couldn't do that in the same way back in the day, right? You could do it, but it would not have looked nearly as epic.
Yeah.
As it did there. It's just, you just look so sad. I know you're dead, but now you look dead. So the whole thing just, it's a touching moment. It's a goofy moment. It's a serious moment. What not? So it was. I think it was one of my favorite kind of little bits in the whole movie was that little sequence.
And then he and Lister had a heart-to-heart right there near the end of the second act. Christian, how did you feel about that? Where he talked about Moonlight,
which is actually why I dropped it to a 9 instead of a 10. Not
really?
Because that scene. Yeah. Well, let me explain on this. Yeah. Let me finish. I thought that was a brilliant scene. I've always related the relationship between Rimmer and Lister as kind of Hawkeye Pierce and Frank Burns, or Hawkeye Pierce and Charles Winchester from MASH.
That seems more accurate, actually. Yeah.
So Dave was like, "Are you what?" But
I can see both sets of that.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, because they both have a different dynamic.
Yeah.
And the moonlight scene, where who likes me, and the moment that I just really kind of teared up was when he pulled the plug. When he was like, "I'm done." It's just like, who likes me? Who wants me? And I'm waiting for Lister to say, "I do," but he doesn't. He doesn't say, "I do." He doesn't let it out. He says, "We work together because of moonlight. The sun cannot. Moonlight does not happen unless there's a sun and a moon. You're the moonlight. Unless we are together, we don't have the moonlight." And the only reason why I rated that negatively, I wanted more of that. I thought, I don't want to say it was a throwaway, but you put something so wonderful there and it just kind of left, and then he plugged himself back in. I really wanted more in there of that explanation. I just thought they started something really good, and then they kind of just needed this is my opinion on this. I think they needed more in there. I don't know why. I needed a little bit more reason for Rimmer to put the plug back in and say, I am the moonlight, or something like that. Maybe even going to the console and looking at the moon itself, because Lister was pointing to it on the monitor. Maybe he looks outside. I think I just needed more beat, and this is where I'm taking the director on that. I think was it Doug Naylor who directed it too. And I said I just needed more time with that, and I think it would have one of the most perfect scenes ever in sci-fi, because he didn't say I do. He didn't say he explained it in this way, which was more than I would think than just saying I do, because I think it would have been a cop-out. He explained it and showed it to him in a package, so that I do would not have worked. It's something that I need to explain to you, show you. So
yeah, I don't think that Rimmer would have believed Lister if he had said I
do. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's where I was aiming for. If he said I do, it would not have been convincing. But that moonlight explanation, yes, he got it. We can't be. We're the part of the team. We're the Four Musketeers.
But yeah,
and
but you could see it in Lister's face that he wanted to say it.
Oh yeah. Craig Charles really pulled that off. He wanted to say it, but he just didn't want. I think he knew that saying "I do" would have been a throw off. So I got to show it to you, because if you don't see it, then I'm just saying words. I'm just saying it for the express. So for the express opinion that I'm just saying this to blow you off. But now I need to see it. And if I had some more time that Rimmer was contemplating this, and then puts the plug back in, you would have gotten a 10 from me.
And I think with that as well, I mean, there's always that subtle, subplot with those two of, do you like me? Well, and beautiful touching scene, slight underscore of, yeah, but I didn't actually say that. So you can't bring this back on me.
Yeah, and that's a possibility too.
Yeah. And they could have actually brought that, kind of tied that back in at the end as well, and we'll get to that last little bit with Rimmer's big moment. And I think that could have really been tied a little bit more together. But yeah, you do see a something resembling growth, if you can ever see growth in Rimmer.
And speaking of growth, one of the upgrades as he's going through his upgrade series, I wanted Ace Rimmer to be one of those upgrades.
Yes,
I wanted Ace to show up and then go to Super Rimmer. Whatever, I forgot what was it. What was the name that he gave himself?
Guy.
What was that?
Glitter guy
or something. Yeah, exactly. It was just like when he gets to the final upgrade, because this upgrade is supposed to be even bigger than Ace, and Ace was not only the opposite of Arnold Rimmer, but it to be upgraded, because what a guy. But it was this is now we're into Marvel DC Ace kind of deal.
Yeah,
I didn't love the diamond outfit. For him. For Rimmer. Mm-hmm. I think, it looked a little bit too much like he was trying to be a sparkly Crichton. With the kind of like the chest platey.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Right? It felt more like he had upgraded Crichton than upgraded Rimmer. Because Rimmer, no matter what he's had, has always had something very uniform looking. And that really just didn't.
But I'm jumping to the end a little bit too fast. But could it be because he ends up saving Crichton in the end, that they kind of become one in the same? Am I really pulling the rubber band, stretching the rubber band there?
I think you are, but it could have been. But if you're right, I don't think they connected to those dots very well either. I could see that happening. That would certainly be a great way to tie everything up in a nice, pretty little sparkly bow. Yeah. I don't know if they intended it. They failed.
That's like I said, there was a lot of opportunities that they could have expanded on, and they just kind of. But I know it was in the essence of time that they needed to address this, because if it goes on too long, then we have a whole series now about this. And I think this was nicely wrapped up. Yeah, exactly. I can't complain. I was like, yeah, give me more Red Dwarf. Yeah. But I think this one episode as a movie by itself is a nice little package bow of what we had seen from the very beginning up until now.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it fit with the motif of him believing himself to be a superhero, and it was just tacky enough that you could imagine that it came from Rimmer's own brain. That this is what he would look like upgraded. Yeah. So but you're right. It does look like they might have taken one of Crichton's old bodies.
Yeah.
Covered it in a glitter cloth and then slapped it on Chris Berry.
I can certainly see an armor-esque, like a more of a Batman molded on abs type thing. I could see that. But yeah, this was just too brick blocky like for my taste, at least for Rimmer. And there wasn't even like a badge anymore. Like he always had some kind of an insignia. You know, they did shift a little bit through the series, but he always had that there as a yes,
did he have the H on his head? I forgot.
Yes.
He did have the H. Okay, so he still had the hologram. I always considered that the badge. Even I know what you're talking about. He's always had the Jupiter Mining Corp. He's always had something to signify on his. Except I think when he went to that blue fabric, did he have anything on there as well? He did. Okay.
He did.
I always thought that was plain. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Okay, there was something on there. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I get you.
Same. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's a costume. It's a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a character thing, and it did kind of fit the character as he evolved. Ish. I just think they could have. I think that was one of the few things they could have definitely executed better.
Okay.
It was for something that has already increased their budget that much. I think it was almost a leftover.
I was about to say, Dave TV had just said, "Okay, we have to make this really stylish outfit for Chris Berry, and it's got to look superhero, like a superhero. And we got to spend a fortune. How much money we got? Well, we found one of Doug Llewellyn's. We found one of Llewellyn's little former stuff. We can just spray paint that and glitter and go for it.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's what you've got. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. But
all right,
it worked.
So let's move on to the third act where the guys they're trapped on a planet and their starbug is disabled and they're buried underneath tons of sand. So they come up with a brilliant idea to get Holly to reboot himself.
I love that. Best scene, I think, in the entire movie. Because you had all the team firing on all cylinders, and here's Norman Lovett, who's not even skipping a beat. It was just amazing. And it's like Craig Charles going, "You missed the moon." And Holly's just explaining it to him, and listeners going like, "Is this safe?" And he goes, "Yes, I'm miles away." I was just like, it was just Norman just doing his thing in the screen, and I'm like, this is why we miss Norman Lovett. Because he is part of that Red Dwarf team, even though it's the four of them, he makes the fifth. He encompasses them, and it's just funny watching him. He's explaining to listener. Listeners just go like, "What's the issue?" He goes, "Oh well, you should have told something to the fact that you should have told me that earlier." Or something. I already released the missiles.
We should go back and say that Holly's solution to get them to help them escape the planet was to blow up the moon.
Moon, right?
and when the guys complain, he says, "Oh well, you probably should have mentioned that because I've already launched them."
Right. But even with the scene, all of them were in there because Crichton did the thing where he took his drill from his finger and went up and put the eyeball out there, and Chris Berry is going like, "Okay, so what do you see out there? We're covered in sand." He goes, "No, really? What was that all about?" And also, they gave Rimmer a little bit of a fun thing because he was the one that figured out that. Well, going back, he was the one that gave the order to Lister to go into the sandstorm. It's just like now we're kind of seeing a little bit of a backbone of Rimmer that we kindly see occasionally that breaks his mold. But also, he's the one that comes up with the idea of putting the antenna up and bringing Holly to the ship. So, and then he convinces Holly go reboot it, go to the backup of the backup drive to bring Holly in. So now we bring in old Holly and just like, okay, here it goes. This is where it takes off now. All five of them are in the
Holly has this other 3 million years of knowledge.
Exactly.
Super computer.
Yeah.
You want that? Right?
I wasn't the only one when he's doing you see the upgrade screen going across the line, and then finally he says the words that we are all waiting for. What's happening, dudes? And like, yes. And you hear everybody in the audience going, yay, yes, we got him back.
I did not laugh harder than I did during that scene. Oh my God, that was hilarious. So Dave, after that, they confront the cats, and that's when we find out about Cat's ancestry.
Yeah.
So kind of lead us into the finale here, sir.
Well, I think before we got to the final, there was also the point where they had tried to let the other cats down. No, I'm not a god. I can't do this. I can't. Cat, you go do it. Cat they converted him. They converted
the cat. Yes.
Like you had Dave peering through the hole. Oh, great. No, he's the best guy ever. I can't believe.
But Dave, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is where I'm talking about where the series gets deep.
Yeah.
Because that scene could have gone either way. Cat could have walked in and just said, "Hey, he's not your boss," or he's not the god that you worried about. But then the disciples turn around and explain, "Well, if that's not the case, how did this happen? How did this happen? How did I start talking when I don't talk anymore?" And all of a sudden, he's converted. So he's just like, so. I mean, when the story comes in, they could have gone in the other way and just been, they could have gone full on bad, but they didn't. They embraced it and then made it part of the humor, which is wonderful about Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
And the cat getting converted because now it goes deeper. It's just like, well, how do you explain that? You just can't write this off. Some things, miracles, cannot be written off or explained. But so how does this all happen? And is miracles a series of flukes or events, or are they meant to be something? Or is there meant to be an execution to where things are at? Is this where the Red Dwarf was pre-written or preordained or destined to be? I don't know. But this was the questions they were hinting upon. Didn't answer, but had a good story to just, again, I want you to think about this. And they didn't do anything to berate, bash, or have, throw in any ideology. They came in and said, we're just going to let you decide. In the meantime, have fun watching what we're doing here.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
And they kind of, I did like the final switch. So they go through, they confront the cats. Hey, do you want to, this is your brother. Do you want to come back? We kind of covered that. No, this is my home. We're back to the three cats again. Thank you, great, you're not our god, but thank you. You've introduced us to our true god, and it's Rimmer. Rimmer's like,
yes.
They all have
H's on their heads. I love that. They pulled it.
It's like, that's just, of course that's how that has to go, right? No, this is perfect. We're serious. You think they're saying, no, we don't care that you're just a human. You did these things. We believed in you, even if it's not you, the person. And that's a poignant moment too. And then they're talking about Rimmer.
Yeah, and that is classic Red Dwarf. That's the way it should have ended. This is the way. There is no other ending that would have worked on this. That is what should have happened. Because now Rimmer's just like, hey, I'm a god. Usually when I'm watching series like this, and sometimes on episodes like Doctor Who, when we do reviews, I'm looking for that one line that encapsulates the whole episode. And the one line that I found, or at least for me, when Lister's talking back to his team. I think they're on Starbuck. I don't know if they've crashed or they're being chased. But it's the scene where he's questioning about what he's done. And therein lies the interpretation of, hey, I just decided not to reveal my cat. And it started this whole thing, and now it became a religion. And the line that precedes to that is people are, I'm paraphrasing, people are having wars in my name. And Crichton says, well, it happens to a lot of gods. And I thought that line, out of everything that was in there, kind of encapsulated what was going on with the Promised Land. But I thought it had a deeper meaning, too, because people do make decisions and do things that are either misinterpreted or reinterpreted another way, or there's that snowball effect where it was mainly innocent. I was just hiding my pregnant cat so they wouldn't dissect her. Next thing you know, I'm a god of cats, and that was not what I was doing. I didn't want people to worship me. What was one of the lines that Rimmer's going? It's like you could barely do human, things like that. So for me, that was the line of the episode, of the whole episode there.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that. It's just yeah.
Did you have what was your favorite moment through the whole thing, Dave?
Like I said, there's the whole scene with him being in black and white and that very, deep meaning, but again, not scene there. And the kind of final moment where Rimmer has to make a decision. And you get to see, for a soulless hologram, you get to see his soul.
Yeah.
And he has to choose between this stone that will keep me powered as Diamond Me, or, and here, spoiler, Crichton is gone. Crichton's battery is completely dead. And so is he. But this little device here will recharge him, even though his battery doesn't work anymore. And he does it. Mm-hmm. And that speaks volumes to, yes, he's arrogant, he's pompous, he is Rimmer. But at this soul, he still cares about his friends.
But he doesn't do it that easily. He does do it. He does kick and scream a little bit on the way.
He has to think about it.
Yeah,
and he makes Crichton regret it afterwards.
And that's, there's a lot of, that's a very realistic trait in many people, right? Mm-hmm. They want to do the right thing, but the right thing is not necessarily the right thing for me.
Right.
Well, that's what we have to kind of fight every day,
Yeah. And we're
versus societally expected altruism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as usual, I just killed that conversation.
That's okay. You have better transitions than some hosts I've worked with.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, well, thank you. And next, I'm going to turn into a 18-wheeler. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, you said transitions, not transforming. Okay, never mind. All right. So we're just about out of time, but give me real quick what you would like to see in a future Red Dwarf movie and or series. Dave, you go ahead and start.
More. Yes.
More.
Yeah.
There are one thing that would be kind of neat would be an MCU style multiverse. You've got the female versions, you've got the backward, you've got all these other variants that they've encountered over the years. It'd be nice to kind of tie all of those in somehow and just kind of bring that back. I think that could be a fun gong show of a thing.
Okay. Christian, what about you?
I don't know, because I would have thought and I don't want them to, please don't take this, and I don't want this to be, if they had ended the series with this would have been acceptable to me. If this would have been like the final. But like I said, occasionally they've jumped the shark and they've lost their focus, but this one pulled it all back in. And I could have seen this as a major motion picture. I would have gone to the theater. I would have sat. I would have brought friends and geeked out the whole time, because it finally got what it needed as far as it looked like, or at least the CGI and budget, that to tell the story that they needed to tell. Because just like in Doctor Who, there were some great stories that were taking place down in the 80s and 80s. They just didn't have the budget. Well, we have this gigantic spaceship. Okay, well, we found this this little bottle. It's going to float through. Just like, okay, there's a big battle scene, but it worked in the favor this time for Red Dwarf because they finally had the at least from this point. I'm sure they could have done better in some cases, but they finally had the technology to tell the story in this particular episode, and it worked, and it was fun. I mean, like Rimmer buzzing around the ship as the Diamond Light hologram, going through things, and just those four characters. Is it Doug Llewellyn?
Robert Llewellyn.
Robert Llewellyn, Danny John Jules, Chris Berry, Craig Charles. They just have a magic that just seems to work together, and I'm assuming that does because we're doing this almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
More. The 80s. So
almost 3. Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about 3 or 4 decades, and they always come back to it. And I think they know that there's an appreciation in the fandom, and if they get the right story, they can work it out together and make magic. And it's a testament to Grant Naylor as a writer, who has made this universe. I'm hoping it just doesn't go. I hope they just keep the focus. That's where it needs to be. It can't be back in the red and he's human. Now we've lost him. Now there's this alternate universe and death's coming to his door and then he kicks him in the nut, on the way out. I hope they just keep the focus if they go forward and try to stay within it. And if they go movie wise, which I would run out the door to see, no problem. If they go movie wise, again, they keep the focus to these guys and try not to go completely bat and have some fun.
I want to see the return of Talkie Toaster.
That's in the movie. That should be.
That's it. Revenge of Talkie Toaster.
Right. He should be in a corner somewhere where they find in the back of the ship, and he's still
That's
there.
Right.
He cannot be broken.
All right. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this panel. Dave, where can you be found on the interwebs?
All over the interwebs. It is the rathole.ca, not .com, because I am up in Canada. That's the website. That is Facebook. That is Instagram, both URL, Facebook rathole.ca. Twitter, it is rathole.ca because, of course, Twitter doesn't let you have a dot.
So, Christian, where can we find you on the internet?
The best place to look is facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS. When we do our live feeds, it ends up there. We also have a YouTube channel, HWWS Media, the Hanging with Web Show Media. There are tons and tons of content on there. Pretty much if you have a geekdom, they're covering it. Life with Thor, Saturday afternoon cartoons with Mark B. Lee, the Kitchen Killers, who are our indie music group, Nerd Culture. There's just a ton of geekdom. Reels and Heels, movie reviews, and Pillow Talk with Willow. There's a lot of people out there that spreading content. We're part of the Hanging with Web Show family. But if you're just a strong out Whovian, just go to facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS. And we are on iHeartRadio. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Google Podcasts. And anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, you can hear our episodes out there.
Excellent. Awesome. And of course, the BritTrack and DragonCon, we can be found on Facebook as well. Just to look for the BritTrack and DragonCon. We're also on Twitter at BritTrack. We're on Instagram at DC BritTrack. And finally, we do have a YouTube channel that this and other panels are going to be streaming on. Now, I have one final question, and Dave, it's for you. It's very important. Is it pool team or pole team?
Poutine.
Poutine. Excellent. All right. Well, all my questions are answered.
It sounded offended. Offensive.
Poutine. You can get a little bit more of a, depends on geographically, but yeah.
Wait, now, what is this? What is this thing you speak of? Now I got it.
So poutine is French fries, cheese curds. If you really low end, it's just grated cheese, but properly cheese curds and brown gravy. and you get the piping hot gravy, just melts the cheese just that little bit.
Sounds amazing.
My
It
cholesterol
is.
just went up listening to this. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It is to die for. You have to try it.
Yeah. I look forward to trying it.
well,
All right. Well, thank you guys. It has been an absolute pleasure spending this last hour with you.
all right.
And for those of you at home, I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you around on the BritTrack and for the rest of Dragon Con Goes Virtual. So until then, see you later, guys. Have a great day.